over 55 million deaths, more than 200 countries involved, over $3 billion in damage, and its influence on the majority of the world's population defined one of the most influential events in the history of mankind. This is the story of the beginnings of one of the largest and most violent conflicts in our history as an Earth. This is the story of the 6-year-long war that changed the identity of mankind. This is the story of the beginning of World War II. The causes and beginnings of World War II can be traced all the way back to June 28, 1919, when the Treaty of Versailles was signed at the Paris Peace Conference. After Germany surrendered and lost World War I, the Paris Peace Conference took place, and this treaty was signed there. It blamed the Germans for the war, and by signing it, Germany and her allies accepted responsibility for all the losses caused during World War II. It was completely fair in my opinion. The Great British finally prevailed.
Wait, what?
Who are you?
I'm Raj, the other narrator. Sorry I'm late, but I've made it. We were supposed to narrate together, stupid.
What did you call me?
Ah yes, the French had encouraged this treaty to be made to humiliate Germany, and Germany was forced to sign it. The treaty was meant to prevent the war from happening again in the future. However, it just left the German economy in ruin and its government in chaos. On January 10, 1920, the League of Nations, created by American President Woodrow Wilson, formally came into existence, and it had its first meeting on November 15, 1920, in Geneva, Switzerland, in a Swiss hotel. It was created to maintain peace across the world in many ways, and also prevent war, like World War I, from occurring again. However, its authority would be challenged many times in the future.
And it would eventually be a failure. Just like you! Also, after the war, Italy was experiencing a depressed economy, and the Italians had lost faith in their democratic government. So, they turned to Benito Mussolini, an Italian fascist who believed in one-man rule, and he came into power in 1922, and soon became the dictator of Italy.
Mussolini? More like Bruce Lee. Get it? Because like Bruce Lee? No? Okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
7 years later, on October 29, 1929, the New York stock market crashed, and the world was plunged into poverty. People lost all of their money they had put into stocks, and it led to the Great Depression. People were starving, angry, and in poverty, so some turned to political extremists besides their government to help them. This is why in Italy, as we saw before, the people turned to Mussolini, and in Germany, the people turned to Hitler, bringing him to power.
Meanwhile, in Japan, the Japanese invasion of the resourceful Manchuria in China began on September 18, 1931. Japan invaded Manchuria because they claimed that China had sabotaged the Manchurian Railway, but they just wanted to take Manchuria. China requested the League of Nations to stop Japan, but the League of Nations did nothing, and this was the first time the League's authority was defied by Japan. Japan did have to withdraw from the League, but nothing major was done to help China defend itself from Japan.
Hitler Kanzler wurde im Jahr 1933.
Oh god, you're really gonna start speaking German again? We've been through this. No one cares that you could speak German, or 8 other languages for that matter. Can you just continue on with the documentary, please?
Alright, fine. But it's actually 9 languages, so get it right. In January 30th, 1933, Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany, as at the time, Hindenburg, the President of Germany, wanted the Nazis, who were the largest party in Germany, on their side, so he agreed to make Hitler Chancellor, thinking that he could control Hitler. However, Hitler sought out to get absolute power as soon as this happened.
Death isn't always the best thing, but it proved to be great for Hitler, as on August 2nd, 1934, German President Paul von Hindenburg finally died, and it gave Hitler the breakthrough opportunity he was finally looking for. Hitler decided that once Hindenburg died, he would succeed him, but not as president, as the Führer, or Emperor of Germany. And so on August 19, the Germans voted, and Hitler officially became the Führer of Germany, which gave him total power over it.
Power and national prestige was also something Mussolini of Italy wanted. So, on October 3rd, 1935, Mussolini, the leader of Italy, invaded Ethiopia, and he didn't care that he defied the League of Nations. He had adopted the mentality that Hitler had, and started to expand Italy, with one of his moves being to take over Ethiopia. Again, the League of Nations didn't do anything to stop him, and the requests for help made to the League were ignored. This success just made Mussolini even more popular in Italy.
Hitler, on March 16, 1935, also introduced conscription. Furthermore, he had also rearmed Germany, began to construct an air force, and revealed that Germany was creating an army of more than 500,000 men, which all clearly violated the Treaty of Versailles. However, the League of Nations didn't do much to take measures against this, proving it to be useless once again, and Germany continued to defy the League. Hitler also had other countries who might have been scared of Germany being rearmed, convinced that all of this was for self-defense, which was clearly a lie.
Just imagine what would have happened if the League of Nations had stopped Germany from rearming itself. Hitler would have been furious.
Hey, what? Where'd you get the drum guy from? What?
Anyways, on March 7th, 1936, Hitler sent German military forces to invade Rhineland and remilitarize it, which greatly violated the Treaty of Versailles, which stated that no German troops could occupy Rhineland again. But Hitler didn't care, as this put France in threat of an attack. The French asked Britain for support, but the British weren't prepared and the League couldn't do anything again, proving it to be useless.
Meanwhile in Spain, on July 17, 1936, a Spanish civil war erupted, and General Francisco Franco, the leader of the fascists in Spain, started a Spanish civil war with his fascist forces in order to try and overthrow the current democratic government. Franco and the fascists would also be supported by Hitler, as well as Mussolini, and the fascists eventually won the war in 1939.
Francisco Franco. That sounds like the same name. Twice. He must have had great parents. In Austria, Austrian Nazis were conspiring to force the Austrian government to unite Austria with Germany. On March 12, 1938, Hitler and German troops marched into Austria in order to annex it and make it a part of Germany. This invasion was referred to as the Anschluss. This did violate the Treaty of Versailles, but again, the League of Nations did not do anything to stop Hitler and proved to be useless.
And Hitler wasn't about to stop there. Oh no. Now, he set his sights on Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia, which consisted of 3 million German-speaking people. So, in May of 1938, everyone found out that Hitler was threatening to invade Sudetenland, and he demanded that it become a part of Germany. The Czech government even mobilized its army because it thought Hitler was going to invade.
So, Hitler, being the ever-intimidating force that he was, eventually forced the Munich Conference to happen on 29 September 1938, and there, Mussolini, Hitler, Chamberlain, the British Prime Minister, and Daladier, the French Premier, all met. And the Munich Conference basically occurred so they could negotiate with Hitler on whether or not he would invade Sudetenland. Over there, they appeased Hitler's demands. They had negotiated with Hitler, and Hitler agreed that he would not make any further territorial demands if they let Germany take over Sudetenland. Chamberlain came home to a happy atmosphere, as everyone thought that the war had been prevented from happening, and he was happy that he had appeased Hitler.
But it was all a lie.
No, mate, just stop, please.
Fine, but Hitler did lie, as on March 15th, 1939, Hitler and his troops invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia anyways and took it. This was known as the Czechoslovakian invasion. Chamberlain, as well as the other country leaders, were all shocked, and they realized that negotiating peacefully would not work with Hitler.
You could probably imagine the phone call Hitler might have had after he successfully tricked Chamberlain and the others and invaded Czechoslovakia despite their deal. He probably called up his friends in Germany and was like, "It was like taking schnitzel from a baby."
Why do you always get to make the jokes? Anyways, on 23rd August 1939, Hitler finally did the one thing he had left to do in order to prevent a two-front war with Russia and France in the future, as Germany signed a Nazi-Soviet pact made by Stalin, the dictator of Russia, and Hitler, stating that the Soviet Union would not attack Germany if parts of Poland and Eastern Europe would be divided with them when Germany attacked Poland.
On September 1st, 1939, at 4:45 a.m., about a week after signing the Nazi-Soviet pact with Russia, about 1.5 million German troops attacked Poland, and this marked the beginning of World War II. Hitler invaded Poland to get more Lebensraum, or living space, for the Germans. The German troops were advancing quickly using the Blitzkrieg, or lightning war battle strategy.
Just like I'm angered by you at times, Britain and France were angered by the Germans for invading Poland, as they weren't convinced that Hitler's invasion was a defensive action. So, on September 3rd, 1939, Britain officially declared war on Germany. France declared war on Germany at 5 p.m.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
During the war, Chamberlain would go on to be replaced by Sir Winston Churchill in 1941 as the Prime Minister, and eventually he would go on to prove by winning the war that scissors does in fact beat paper.
At the beginning of World War II, from 3rd September to May 10th, 1940, a period called the Phony War occurred, where no significant or major military operations or missions occurred for 8 months, and it also allowed Hitler to easily defeat Poland, as no military backup was provided for Poland. The Phony War was ended by Germany when it marched into Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg on May 10th, 1940.
And finally, to put the icing on top of the cake, Canada also declared war and officially joined the war exactly a week after Britain declared war, on September 10th, 1939. After a vote was taken by the Canadian Parliament to join the war, Canada had joined the war.
After Germany had signed several treaties and pacts with Japan as well as Italy ever since 1936, the Tripartite Pact was finally made, and they agreed to a defensive military alliance between all three countries, so they could support each other. As now the Japanese, Italians, and Germans had officially come together as an alliance, they could be referred to as the Rome-Berlin-Tokyo Axis. The three countries that had defied the Treaty of Versailles had come together to support each other.
Canada, Britain, France, and other countries on the Allies side had declared war against Germany, as well as the other countries on the Axis side, signifying the commencement of the war. This beginning of the World War also ended up putting a brutal end to the League of Nations.
And so, just like that, the road to World War II was complete, and World War II officially began. The 6-year-long war that changed the fate of our history had started, and it still influences mankind, even to this day.